it's been clearly stated over and over, statistically speaking, who are the people that are most directly impacted by these continued chipping away of access and rights for women in Texas. So we're talking about who's disproportionately affected are women of color, are women on Medicaid, and of the women on Medicaid in the state of Texas, the majority, thanks to Annalisa's research, are women of color, so we know that for sure. And this will disproportionately affect women of color. I think for us, the question is, yes, we're so thankful that some people are fighting to preserve what's being taken, but we also have to have the full spectrum and the vision of what we are wanting to create. We all know what the problem is and what we're fighting against, but we haven't really taken the time to step back and say, well, if we did have the resources that we really need for women to have care during the reproductive life cycle, if we had enough resources, if we weren't just fighting over this, how would it look? How should it look? And I would argue that even with all the resources, the way the system's set up isn't optimal for anyone, but in particular for women of color. So for one thing, we feel that the silo of the abortion over here versus the having a baby over here, as opposed to a spectrum of care for when you do become pregnant and you need all kinds of support as you're making your decision about what you're gonna do, first of all, is part of the care. And then the vision of how care would look, either way, whatever choice you make. One, we decided to create Vibrant Woman Mama Sana as a side project of Mamas of Color Rising, because Mamas of Color Rising does organizing and advocacy and policy and community surveys to gather and strategize, but once you start passing policies or fighting rules or passing rule changes, then who's actually doing it on the ground? And we felt that we don't see it happening on the ground the way that we would like it to look. So for us, we're trying to envision, if you take a moment to close your eyes and envision, what would it be like in the world, the more just and loving world that we want, to become pregnant? What could that feel like, you know? To be able to decide, you know what, this, for whatever reason, this isn't the time for me, and to be able to do that in a way with lots of love and care and support, and to also have the chance to decide, yo, I want to have this baby, and feel that you really could choose to have this baby, because often people are choosing not to, not because they don't want to, but because the resources aren't there, the support isn't there. That's part of it, not the only thing, of course. I'm not saying that, but it is part of what's happening. So what if there was a way to have that experience be fully supported with emotional, mental support, physical support, and what we're adding is culturally relevant support and care, which is something we don't see happening, right? It's not the same thing to have cultural, it's not just cultural sensitivity, there's all kinds of cultural competencies, right? But beyond that, there's something much more that it takes to have care that really reflects your culture and respects your culture. That's something we feel is missing in all aspects of reproductive health care today, in Texas in particular.